Hey guys, in this tutorial we're going to take a look at how to create this sort of skyscraper. So the logic for this is pretty straightforward. We need to create a base curve around which our geometry is going to begin. We need to create some axis subdivisions around that. Then we need to turn those divisions into these sort of pylon type elements. We're going to create a truss system around each of those, and we'll also do some floor plates in the middle. Cool, so I'm going to get rid of that and we'll start on a new definition. So we're going to start with a couple of graph mappers. The first one is going to be a sine curve. My second and third are both going to be Beziers. And so I'm going to drop down a range component too, plug that into my first, second, well actually into all of my graph mappers, and I'm going to grab a slider and I'm going to set that to a maximum value of not 580, only 50, and that's going to be an integer slider. That's going to be my number of steps. I'm also going to put down a multiplier, and this multiplier is going to give me my heights, my z height for each of these levels. And so this is going to be a floating point slider with a maximum value of 200, and now I'm going to construct a point at each of these height values. So we'll set that to a maximum value of, somewhere around there. Increase these divisions, and I'm going to now use the two graph mappers as a sort of x displacement. So I'm going to start by multiplying them together first, and then I'm going to actually move all of this along. I'm going to copy and paste this multiplier here, and this is going to be my x displacement. So it's looking a bit weird at the moment, but we're going to hone that in a little bit. Firstly, we're going to take down the multiplier. I'm only going to set that to a maximum value of 50. And then I'm going to pull back my sine curve so that it's only giving me one full wave and a little bit extra, so that my top is ever so slightly off center, maybe just around there somewhere. And then I'm going to drag down the bottom or the back end of this Bezier so that it's really giving me the sort of that very minimal shift over there that I want. Gonna bring out the bottom, or the bottom section, and I like this, what's going on with this middle bit here. Cool. And so now this is going to form the basis for some planes, which are going to plug into a set of cylindrical points. And so for that, we need another range component, which is going to give us our axis subdivisions. So I'm going to change this range from 0 to 2 pi, and I'm going to plug in another slider with a maximum integer value of 24, and I'm going to set the value to 12. Plug that in, and that's my angle, but it's I'm going to turn off the planes, and so it's not quite doing exactly what I want at the moment, so I'm going to graph this input here, and there we go, we're getting a whole lot of circles. Now we just need to create another multiplier for our, well, we don't need two of them, for our radius. And so for this one, I'm going to set, okay, we'll just plug that radius value in, and what I want is I want the top to completely peter out so that it reaches just a point, and then the bottom to be nice and fat, and we'll sort of adjust the way that tapers at the top too. Quite liking that. Now that's similar to this Bezier curve, but it's very important for me that this this top point is at 0, 0, or not 0, 0, but it's converging to a single point. All right. Now what I'm also going to do is I'm going to add in a second multiplier over here, and this second multiplier is going to go in here as well. And what it's going to help me do is it's going to create two curves along each of these lists of points. And so what I need to do here, this is going to get a bit interesting, we're going to cross-reference each of these planes with each of these points, except firstly we're going to graft this input here and we're going to graft this input here. So what it's going to do is it's going to reference each single plane with both of these points here, and then I'm going to plug, actually I'll just lock the solver in case that the component goes berserk with too much information. I'm going to plug these in here, and I'm also going to ungraft my angle, and we're going to unlock it, and we're going to interpolate through these points. I'm also probably going to need to, let me see, I think I need to graft this here. No, not quite. Nope. Huh, that's interesting. We have, let's see, we have 33 lists here, 33 lists here. Let's try graft both of these. There we go. Cool. So now I'm getting my my two sets of curves, except they're going the wrong way. So we're going to drop down a path mapper, because that's going to help us resolve this. So we're going to create null mapping, and before we edit that, actually no, I will need to simplify this. Create null mapping again, and we're going to get a param viewer to see what it's going on exactly. So it's a three-dimensional data structure. We can tell that immediately because there's 1, 2, 3 different sort of locuses of differing data. So we're going to go into here, and we're going to go A, B, I, and we're going to, I think we want to converge this first path. So I'm going to go B, I, and then we'll plug that in there, and there we go. There is our list of curves. Cool. So the next thing I need to do is I need another path mapper over here, because what I want is I sort of want all of these items into 3 separate lists. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to quickly cull the last item in this list, because at the moment our list goes from 0 to 2 pi. So 0 and 2 pi are the exact same value, and I do not need 2 of the same values. So I'm going to plug that in there, and that's going to give me 12 branches. And so what I'm going to do here is, let me see, drop down a clean path mapper, create null mapping. Let's just see what we've got. So we've got 24 branches, and I want to turn these into, what's that going to be? I want to turn them into branches with 3 items on each list. So I'm going to go, let's see, 0, 1. I'm going to, okay, so A is going to be my second sort of, because I'm going to go B over 3. And that is going to do something a bit weird. Remember, we get this weird sort of rounding error. What we need to do is we need to take the floor of B over 3, and there we go. We're going to get 3 items per list, and that's what we want. So next, I'm going to drop down a relative item. plug that in there, and let's see, actually I will need to graph this input coming out, and then I'm just going to grab a param viewer so we can see what's going on, and we'll plug that in there. Alright, so my offset, what I want to do is I want to connect this curve here, the inner one, to the outer one, back to the inner one, and then loop it back to the first one. So we're going to go 0, 0, 0 to let's see, 0, 1, 0. We can 0, 1, 1. Sorry, and then we're going to go 0, 0, 2. Let's just see how that's working for now. Oops, did not want to disable that. Now I'm going to loft these. Although it will do something a bit weird because some of these lists are incomplete. So I'm going to prune anything with less than 3 items. In fact, what I'll do is I'll tie it to the length of this here. There we go. I'm also going to change my loft options to straight sections. And there we go. What I also want to do at this stage is I'm going to take this, I'm going to multiply it by a factor of 3. And so what this is going to give me is 12 pylons. And I want to bring this down to 6. There we go. Happy with that. Alright, so now we want to construct the inside of this as well. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to keep going on this same panel. I'm going to go 0, 0, 1. Oops, no, actually no, I will need to repeat 2, and you'll see why in a sec. Then I'm going to go 0, 0, 1, and all the way back to 0, 0, 0. Alright, there we go. So that is our our closed loft. But what I do want is I want this inside to sort of follow the curvature of the shape. I don't want that to have a straight section. So after I prune this, I am going to partition the list. I'm going to partition it into sets of 3. And then when we plug that in there, we should get a loft for the front and a loft for the back. But I'm going to what I'm going to do is I want my loft options to change in between. So there is a loft options component which is quite useful. You can plug that in there, and what we do have is we have this item over here, the loft type, and so all we need to do is plug in a number into here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a panel, and let me see what type of lofts I want. I want a normal loft and I want a straight loft, so that's 0 and 3. I'm going to change this to multi-line data, and then I'm going to get some tree statistics here, and I'm also going to take a list length component. Actually no, I don't need to do that because I already get my number of branches here, and so all we need to do is repeat data. So we need to repeat the data for a certain length, which is given there, and then we just need to plug that, we need to graph this and then plug that into our t value. and it looks like it's doing it the wrong way, so we're just going to swap that around to 0, 3, and then 0. There we go, so we get straight sections on the outside, curved sections on the inside, which is precisely what I wanted. Alright. Next, I'm going to look at how I create my sort of truss system. So what I'm going to do is I am going to deconstruct this these lofted breps. Actually, no, before I do that, I am going to, actually, does it matter? I will do a brep join. And it's not going to work off the bat just because they are all on separate lists. So I am going to simplify. And actually this, I'm glad this happened. This is another interesting thing. So you can see that if we look over here at the partition list, and I'll just simplify that. What we do have is this nice three-dimensional data structure. So you'd assume that when we plug the partition list into the loft options, we should still get that at least a two-dimensional data structure, because everything will be lofted together in here, but we should still maintain those two path indices. But we haven't, and that's because what it's doing is it's getting the path information from here, from our loft options node. And so what we can do is we can right-click over here on this on the curve input, and we can set this to principal. And so what this will do is this will make sure that our data structure is inherited from the curve input. If we don't have that on, it's going to inherit the data structure from our loft options. That's a really neat thing that we want to keep. Cool. And so now I can just shift these paths, not loft. I can shift the paths and then plug that into my brep join. And there we go. The next thing I'm going to do, so I've got my breps joined together. I am actually going to deconstruct these breps coming out here. Actually, it doesn't matter which one I do, I'll just do this one. And so we're getting a list of, well, we're getting a list of faces, edges, and vertices. We're going to take our faces and we're going to deconstruct those as well. And so this will give me the edges per each face, which is really useful because this is just all the edges in the brep, not necessarily in an ordered fashion, well, in some sort of ordered fashion, but this gives us each boundary curve relative to each face, which is a lot more helpful, at least I think so. And so now, what I do want is I want to grab each of these long curves per each face. So what we are going to test is if we're going to see if there's a chance that we can just list item out, say the first and second item. Actually, wait, hold on. We'll do it the other way. We'll use a cull index. So I'm going to try culling numbers 0 through 2 and see what we get. I still have, looks like I've still got my curve input on here, so I'm going to turn those off. Alright, so if we cull item 0, this is what we get. If we cull item 1, nope. If we cull item 2, no. Okay, so that didn't quite work. What we are going to need to do is we are going to need to sort these curves according to their length. And then I'm going to just put my cull index in here again. If you've never used the sort component before, this is really cool. What you can do is you plug in a sort of data item that is sortable, so a list of lengths. Actually, no, it looks like I did that the wrong way. So our list of lengths is our k. Our k is our sortable key. And then a is our list of values that we want to sort according to that length. So now it's going to sort these curves according to their length, essentially. And so now I can just cull item 0, and I should get just my edge curves per each face. And so what I can now do is I can divide these curves up. Divide curve. And I'm going to throw down another slider. And I'm going to set that to a maximum value of, I don't know, 50. 50 is definitely too much though. So somewhere around there. And then what I need to do is I need to find a way to join these up in a truss-like fashion. So let me see. What I might actually do here is dispatch these two items, because we're going to need to create a different culling pattern for each one. So we'll cull this, I will divide these separately, and then we're going to create a cull pattern. And we'll also need to make a copy of this, and we're going to need a pattern. So it's going to be true, false, very straightforward. Set it to multi-line data. I don't know if I've ever explained multi-line data, but basically when you plug, if you plug this input in just like this, it doesn't read this as two separate true and false values, it just reads it as a string of true false, which doesn't mean anything to Grasshopper. So as soon as you turn it into multi-line data, it recognizes that those are two separate items. Very straightforward, but if I haven't explained that, there we go. Alright, so we're going to plug that into one into each of these for each of these divisions, and then the opposite as well, so our not gate into the second ones. Preview that off, and now we just need to weave this data back together. But before we do that, we might just have a look at our data structure, because it is going to mismatch slightly. So we have a very long path index, pretty difficult to tell what's going on at the moment. I'm just going to simplify all of those. Alright, it looks like we should be good. So now I'm going to weave these together. In fact, actually no, I probably need to weave the first and the last one, and then I'm going to create a polyline through those. Okay, no, that's right. The other thing I'll need to do is I will need to reverse this list here. Alright, there we go. That is my first polyline created, and now I'll just do the second one as well. And that one, okay, it looks like I'm going to do those the other way, so that's 0, and that's 1, and there we go. There is the basis of our truss system. I'll decrease this count because that's too much for my liking. It's looking a bit better, maybe a slightly less. 20, we'll keep it at 20. Alright, and then I'm going to pipe these. Now the pipe is a very heavy component in Grasshopper, so I'm just going to do this with the solver turned off. I'm not sure how big my radius is going to be at the moment, so I'll keep it real low, 0.2. It's good for me at the moment. And I'll make a copy of that, plug in my other polyline, turn off these polylines, and now we're just going to wait. Still waiting. There we go. Alright, so well, I think that's looking pretty good at the moment. We'll bake those out. And that's also going to take a while. And then we're also going to bake out our joined breps. And there we go. There is our structure done. Now we just need to create the internal shell, or the internal bits. So over here, we're going to loft these curves together. In order to do that, we'll need to shift the paths. Actually, no, we won't need to shift the paths. We might need to change our structure around a little bit. Let's have a look at what's going on over here. So I remember that I had yes, okay, so I have 18 divisions around my axis, so I don't want to collapse. Actually, I do want to collapse this first branch, so yes, we can just quite simply shift the paths. And then loft that. And so this will give me an inner loft and an outer loft. And I'm going to want the inner one, so I can now flatten this just because there's only two curves. I'm not concerned about the data structure. I'm going to list item out the first one. Nope, not list length. I'll just go to sets and grab my list item, grab that internal one, and I am going to create some lofted. I'm going to create some sections through that using a contour component. So I'm going to plug my surface into here. My plane or my contour point starts at 0, 0, 0, and that's absolutely fine. Just need the contour normal direction is a positive z vector, which is fine, and my distance is all I need to set. I'm going to set it to, I don't know, maximum of 5 for now, and we'll see how that goes. You know what? I think we can go a little bit more. Oh, take it up to 10, and yeah, somewhere around there. I like that. Cool, so now I can take these contours and I can turn them into surfaces. Oh, apparently not. Let's try a boundary surface. Huh, interesting. So we probably have some sort of issue where curves are not closed properly. So what we can do is we can just create a test for whether the curve is closed. Oh wait, hold on. Oh, we probably just need to create a closed loft over here. Yeah, there we go. That was the only issue. So there's our boundary surfaces created. I'm just going to extrude those in a Z direction, and I'm going to drop down another slider for my height, 0.25. I don't know. I feel like that'll probably be about right, but we'll find out in a sec. Yeah, you know what? I think that's good. I think that works. Alright, so there we go. Those are my floor plates. Actually, I might just take them to 0.3. And actually, another thing I should mention at this point, a lot of the time, if I do want to create a solid like this, or like a solid like these, I always turn my curves into boundary surfaces first, because if you extrude just the curve, it's going to give you just this, all this real measly sort of perimeter, like ribbon, if you will, and then you'd need to put like a cap holes after that. And that would do the exact same thing, but this is just my method. I prefer to create a boundary surface beforehand and then extrude that surface, and that'll create a closed piece of geometry. So 0.3, that's looking good. Can bake these out as well, and then I'm just gonna bake out my loft here too. Oops, not quite just yet. I'm going to bake out the list item, and I'll just go into Rhino, grab this, go to my material, and I'll just give it a bit of transparency so we can see how that looks. And there we go. There is my skyscraper. It's probably got a bit too much of like a belly in the middle, but you know what, that's absolutely fine. This is a parametric definition, so I can go back and I can just adjust these sliders accordingly. I'm not going to do that right now just because I've got that I've got this pipe going on at the end. Actually, what I could do, if I did, you know what, I might as well do this. Really cool. If you do have something very heavy in your definition, what you can do is you can use this data dam. It's really cool. So I think somewhere around here, after I've interpolated my curves, there's a place where I can tell. Actually, no. I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it here. And then I'll plug that in there. I'll get rid of this. And so I'm going to do this based on how my lofts look. Alright, so I can just come in here and I can, let's see, I want to tweak that middle bit. Yeah, something like that. Maybe I'll drag this down as well. There we go. Maybe I'll drag this top bit up a little. Cool. And then, so what this data dam does is it basically prevents any data from going through it until you press play. So now that I'm happy with that, I can turn all of this off. I can press play, and then I'll wait. I don't know, maybe I need to wait a few seconds. So now all the changes are going to feed their way down along here. And now I can bake out my pipes again. And you can see those pipes are really heavy. You'd never be able to just casually check out what's going on with the definition there. I'll bake out the joined brep, the extrusion, the list item over here, set my surface to have a bit of transparency again, and there we go. I think that looks a bit better. Cool, so this has been how to create a really cool sort of parametric skyscraper. I hope you enjoyed it.